are the real power in Outland.
Hey guys, this is a quick guide to Gruul's Lair, which is one of the first 25-man raids in the Burning Crusade. This raid has two bosses, and the first one is High King Maulgar. Keep in mind that your guild might do it a bit differently, but it's an easy fight, so as long as you know how to handle his 4 adds, you should be good. You want to bring 3 tanks, 6 to 8 healers, some ranged DPS players, and at least 2 melee with some interrupts. You also want to bring 2 hunters, at least 1 warlock, a mage, and a boomkin druid. The kill order of the 4 adds should be Blind-Eyed Seer, Olim the Summoner, Crushed Firehand, Kigler the Crazed, and then High King Maulgar. Now, the toughest part of this fight is actually the pull and positioning. You want your 2 hunters to misdirect 2 of the adds. The first one should MD High King Maulgar to your main tank, the second hunter should MD Olim the Summoner to your second tank, and the third and final tank should taunt Blind-Eyed Seer. Now, for the last 2 adds, you want your druid to pick up Kigler the Crazed and have your mage pick up Crushed Firehand. Now, in case you don't have a boomkin druid, you can also use 2 ranged DPS players instead. And yeah guys, that's basically the pull, so let's go ahead and talk about the 4 adds and the boss. First up, we have Blind-Eyed Seer. He will use Prayer of Healing, which heals himself and all nearby allies. He will also use a shield followed by a Prayer of Mending, which is a 10-second cast. You must quickly nuke down the shield and interrupt the heal. Now, there are a few abilities that can interrupt the cast even if the shield is up. So if somebody's spec'd into Silencing Shot, Intimidation, Improved Counterspell, Silence, Improved Kick, Intercept, or Improved Shield Bash, they'll be able to interrupt the cast even when the shield is up. But yeah guys, once you have killed Blind-Eyed Seer, it's time to move on to Olim the Summoner. Olim the Summoner should be tanked by the off tank and a warlock. The lock should enslave one of his Fellstalkers because it comes with a taunt as well. The rest of the Fellstalkers that spawns throughout the fight should either be banished or feared by other warlocks in your raid group. Olim the Summoner will use 2 abilities. Death Coil, which will horrify the main tanks to make sure to tank swap, and Dark Decay, which is a stacking dot the Fellstalkers can dispel. You can also enslave the rest of the Fellstalkers that spawns throughout the fight, and use their taunt ability on Crush Firehand. This way you don't have to kill them yourself. After killing the summoner, you want the melee to stay and kill the remaining Fellstalkers if they are still up, and have your ranged players move on to Crush Firehand. Now, in case you already killed all of the Fellstalkers, you want the melee to move on to High King Maulgar instead. First and foremost, make sure that your mage knows how to spell steal, because the mage will have to spell steal the shield from Crush Firehand in order to stay alive. Crush will use 2 more abilities. Blast Wave, which does damage to everyone within 15 yards, and a Greater Firebolt, which deals a ton of damage to the mage, so healers, make sure you don't sleep. The last add of this fight is Kigler the Crazed. One of the main abilities he will use is a Greater Polymorph. This is why you want to have a boomkin druid tanking the add, because as you might know, a boomkin cannot be polymorphed in BC Classic. He will also use a Lightning Bolt, which deals minor damage to its target, but basically this can be absorbed by a Shaman's Grounding Totem if needed. The final ability Kigler the Crazed will use is Arcane Explosion. This will hit everyone within 30 yards, and if you get hit by it, you will get knocked back and lose all threat as well. So you want to make sure someone else picks up the aggro in case the boomkin gets hit by it. And finally, we have High King Maulgar. During phase 1, he will use a frontal called Arcing Smash, so everyone except for the tank should stand behind him. Your tank also want to make sure to have their backs faced towards a wall due to the knockback from Mighty Blow. During the first phase, he will also use Whirlwind, which makes him spin and do a ton of damage to everyone who gets hit by it, so you want to make sure your melee runs away and doesn't get hit by it. At 50% health, he will become red and transition into phase 2. During the second phase, he will charge random players and use Intimidating Roar. This will stun the tank and fear everyone nearby, so make sure the boss is taunted and repositioned as soon as possible. And yeah guys, that's pretty much it for the first boss.
Gruul will crush you!
After killing the first boss, it's finally time to defeat Gruul himself. You should position yourselves around the boss in a circle and make sure everyone is in range of a healer. I'll remove some of the icons in the screen so there isn't as much clutter, but you get the point. The core mechanic of this fight is called Growth. It's a stacking buff that he will use every 30 seconds. This will increase his damage by 15%, meaning the fight actually gets progressively tougher. Now the second ability he will use is called Hurtful Strike. This deals a ton of damage to the person who is the second highest on his threat meter, which should always be your off tank. He will also use an ability called Ground Slam, which will knock everyone back and apply Grunlord's Grasp onto everyone. This is a stacking debuff that will reduce your speed by 20% each stack. After 5 stacks, you'll be unable to move and become stoned. At this point, the boss will use Shatter, which deals damage based on how close you are to other players. If you're too close to other players, you will probably get one shot. Now, my suggestion is that you have the melee around the middle of the room and have your ranged players run to the walls right after Ground Slam. Just make sure that everybody is in range of a healer so you don't die. Another ability that you have to watch out for is called Reverberation. This will silence everyone for about 4 seconds, so it's important that the raid is topped off before this ability is being used. And the last and final ability is called Cave In. This deals damage to anyone standing in it, but it's pretty easy to avoid because a tiny warning will show up on the ground before it appears, so no excuses. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this guide. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. You can also support me on Patreon if you like, and the link to that will be in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video as well. Take care.